Well, hey YouTube, Richard Scott here. Today is February 4th of 2021 and getting things ready for the spring season for bees, and I want to show you kind of what the process is as we get into pre-spring of getting the bees fed up, ready to go, and getting the bees as healthy as we can so these colonies are ready to go by the time we get into March and April. So just a few things, show you kind of behind the scenes, so to speak, how it looks heading into February and what we do with our bees. What I do, I mix 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, and I get my sugar from these 55-gallon drums. There's a guy over in the Gadsden, Alabama area I get my sugar from, and it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot more efficient than going and buying bags of sugar at the store. And you know, whenever you need some, all you gotta do is shovel some up and you're good to go. So really like this process. It's a lot better, it's a lot easier. You know, you don't have to sit there and cut open, 30, 40 bags of sugar. And if you go buy bags of sugar from the store, it's going to be a little more pricey. So what I like to do is use these 5-gallon buckets. I use these to mix my sugar water. It makes it a lot easier versus mixing individual jars or 1-gallon pails. Try to mix this together. That way I can pour in my pails that I use my 1-gallon paint cans. And it's just a lot more efficient like this. And I do, again, this time of the year, it's early February, do 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. So I'll fill these about 3/4 of the way full of sugar, then about 1/4 way full of water, and that gives me about the right mixture there. So just makes things a little bit easier, trying to make life a little easier on us. All right, so now it's simple as mixing up the sugar water. And again, I do these about 3/4 way full of sugar and then about 1/4 way full of water. And then I've got a stirrer over here hooked up to the drill, and I'll mix it together. I like my sugar to be very, very syrupy. I don't want it to be thin this time of the year. Now later in the spring, if I were to still have to feed a few colonies, I'll do 1-to-1 sugar and water. But this time of year, I want it a lot thicker. I'd use this thing, a drill hooked up to something you stir paint with, and this makes life a lot easier. You just stick it down here and you stir it just like you would stir paint, and it mixes your sugar and water together to make a good syrup, and it doesn't take long either. What I like to do to feed the bees, I use paint cans. These are 1-gallon paint cans, and I put these on top of each colony, each hive, and I feed them through that. I turn these things inverted, upside down, and on the tops of these, I've got 4 or 5 little bitty holes poked in there. Now these are tiny holes, and the sugar water will basically pool up, using through a vacuum, will pool up on these holes here, and the bees can actually drink it out of these holes as the can sits on top of the colony. I'll show you that here once I set a few up, but again, this is how I like to do it. It makes life so much easier. I can put 1 gallon per colony and just keep an eye on it. If they need more feed, they get more feed, but a whole gallon will go a long way for these bees. So seems to be the most efficient way. I've tried just about every way to feed bees, and this seems to be the most efficient. Alrighty, everything is loaded up and we are ready to go. I've got our sugar water, I've got pollen patties. I'm going to feed the bees that as well, and heading out to 4 bee yards this morning and try to knock everything out while we can. Since it's early February, this is the good time to start doing that. And we got one fairly warm day today. We're going to be in the 60s, so we're close to that now. We're actually in the upper 50s now, so it's just getting warm enough where I can do this. Also in the back, I've got some swarm traps. I'm going to set a few of those around some of our bee yards just to, in case we get a swarm or two come March and April, to try to lure those into swarm traps rather than fly off and we don't catch them. So a lot going on this morning, and we're going to go for a ride and knock it out. All right, so don't laugh, but this is a very homemade swarm trap. This thing is made out of every piece of lumber I could find that I didn't have to pay for, so that was nice. But this thing is about 12 inches deep by 12 inches wide and 30 inches tall, and that's about the space bees seem to like, especially a larger swarm. And down here towards the bottom, I've got a little 3/4 inch hole drilled in that, and that's where the bees would enter there. But anyway, I'll hang this onto a tree. You see I've got my screws ready here in this board, and this whole thing can come apart. I've got screws in here. That way when the swarm moves in, it'll be easy to take out. So yeah, it's not pretty, but it will work, hopefully. So this is a brand new type of swarm trap, and this lumber, this is raw pine. This is not treated. Nothing on here is treated, and the reason I like that is because of the fact that you have a natural wood smell. You know, bees tend to go to trees. They like to build in cavities in trees, and this is going to have that raw pine smell. So we'll see if that works. Maybe this will help. So a lot of people ask, what do you bait a swarm trap with? And this is what I do. Doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, but it's something that I'm trying that tends to seem to help attract swarms to a swarm trap. So what this is propolis and 90% rubbing alcohol mix. If I've got some dead outs, I'll scrape the propolis off, or I've got some colonies have a lot of propolis, I may scrape that off, let it dry out or crush it into a fine powder, and then put it in this quart jar and mix it with rubbing alcohol. And what I do is I use this little, little kid's injector here, medicine injector, and I'll fill that up and I'll squirt this into the hole where it's in the tree to where I can hear it, where it hits kind of the wood inside there, to where it soaks a little bit into the wood, and the alcohol will evaporate, but the propolis is left behind. And I've done this, and it smells very strong, like bees have been in here. And that's kind of the key, is bees have never been in this particular box, so if they haven't been in there before, I want to give it that bee smell to make them a little more attracted to it. And we'll see, at the end of the spring, we'll kind of go back and test this thing and see how efficient it was and how well it worked. But it's just, like I said, trying something new, and if I can catch more swarms, that's free bees. So there we go. Yeah, I'm going to suit up just in case. Sometimes our bees can be a little aggressive. Not always, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. These are the pollen patties I use, and this is wax paper, but this is their pollen supplement I'm going to use. This just kind of helps give the bees protein, what they need, a food source. But I'll open this up, hopefully you can see this, what the cluster looks like inside. And also I'm weighing this box to kind of feel the weight of it. If it needs any sugar water, I'll add that to it. But this is a heavy box. I don't know if you can see the cluster inside there. So what I'm going to do is add this right on top of these bees here. Yeah, this is a heavy box, so it's definitely good. Push down on it. There we go. So those bees are fed, so we'll go to the next colony. All right, so that's pretty much all it is to it. So I just got to go through all of our colonies and do basically the same thing. And I've got to hurry up because I'm running out of time. So you'll have a good one. We'll see you around.